In this video, I'm going to show you 3 of my favorite ways to play the major 2-5-1. I've also made some PDF chord charts for you to download and use to practice. You can access those via the link in the description below. So, if you do not know what a 2-5-1 is, I'd highly recommend that you watch my video on it, but just as a super quick and simple breakdown, within a key we have 7 notes. Notes we can number, 1 to 7. Let's take F major for example. F being 1, G 2, A 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we can resolve that with 8 being the octave. But with a 2-5-1, we're simply playing the 2, G, 5, C, and the 1, F in that order. Now, within a chord progression, we're obviously playing chords. So if we play the 2-5-1 as a chord progression, with each chord in its root position, we have G minor, C major, and F major. And it sounds terrible. And that's because, 1, the way we've played each chord, the voicings, they're boring and incohesive, with these large gaps as we jump around the keyboard. And 2, we're usually playing a 2-5-1 within a larger chord progression, so we're losing a bit of context here. But not to worry, we will resolve both. First, let's look at 3 better ways to voice the major 2-5-1 chord progression, with each building on the next. Remember, this will work with any major 2-5-1 in any key. Number 1, playing a minor 7, or G minor 7 here, into a major triad again, but this time in the second inversion. So C major, second inversion, and then A major 7, in this case, and F major 7. Super simple, but volumes better than the triads in root position all the way through. Notice how we used inversions to keep these chords a bit closer together and sound more cohesive. Number 2, let's take the same G minor 7 and let's invert it so we have our root and perfect 5th in our left hand, minor 7, minor 3rd, and perfect 5th in our right. And we could even throw the 11 in there if we're fancy. But that's our 2 chord, which sets us up nicely for a dominant 9 on our 5 chord, C dominant 9. Here I like to drop the 5th G from my right hand and play it along with the C or root note in my left, which creates this nice expansive sound when moving from our 2 chord to our 5 chord. However, it still sounds cohesive with so many of the notes being shared between the 2 chords, and these 2 notes here being the anchor between them. And finally, we can resolve on the 1. Anyhow, truth be told, we're mainly looking at the 2 and the 5 here. For me, the 1 is a bit more contextual. So if I played an A minor 7 into my 2-5-1, an F major 7 may sound good here. But play it alone with this 2-5-1 isolated, not so much, because we're losing that context. But of course, that's the case with the 2-5-1 or any chord progression in general. It will change depending on the chords that have come before and the chords that are coming next, and the feeling and vibe you are trying to convey. So remember, all of these chords can be inverted. There are so many ways to play this 2-5-1. Which brings us on to number 3 and my favorite. For our 2 chord, we're going to stick with our minor 7 once again. Same voicing. However, for our 5 chord, we're going to do a tritone substitution. Let me quickly play it and then I'll break it down. So essentially we have this walk down from our 2, half step, then another half step down to our 1. That note in the middle in relation to our 5 chord, or C, is a tritone. That's the interval between. Tone, tone, tone. 3 tones making a tritone. Triangle, triad, trinity. 3. Now in the second chord progression, we played a C dominant 9. Anywhere you have a dominant chord, we can replace it with a chord built around the tritone. Now you probably want to watch a more in-depth video by an actual music theory tutor to kind of fully understand the theory and rules behind this, which there are plenty here on YouTube. But for this video, I just want to show you one of the chords I like to play as a substitution for my 5 chord, where I'd play a dominant 7 or 9. So as my tritone substitution, I like to play an augmented 7. So it's like playing a dominant 7, just we take the perfect 5th and move it up 1 semitone. So we sharpen it, and we have an augmented 7. And when playing it together with our 2 chord, G minor 7, I like to also play the minor 3rd in my right hand to further bring the 2 chords together. And of course we can switch this up. What if we keep the D in there? Sounds nice. But it can also sound nice, instead of sharpening the 5, we can flatten the 5. And then we can resolve on a nice major 7. And I really like this voicing right here. We have an F major 7 in root position, plus the major 3rd and perfect 5th. So let's hear all 3 within the context of a larger chord progression. Number 1. Number 2, and finally, number 3. Now these are not the biggest chords within a chord progression that you may come across, but they still require the use of 2 hands and the ability to play multiple notes in your left hand. Now this can be tricky, especially as many of us are taught to play chords in our right hand and only the bass notes in our left, which can leave our left hand lacking in its ability to play chords, melodies, or alternative rhythms from our right, making playing these bigger chords and switching between them in real time more difficult than it needs to be. So what are some of the ways we can add this level of skill to our left hand? Well, one of the ways is with today's sponsor, Melodics. I've been taking their course on hand independence, and this course aims to build your confidence in playing these 2-handed key parts whilst developing dexterity and rhythmic independence. And like with all Melodics courses, it starts off extremely slow, helping us build that foundation with each lesson building upon the next. In one of the lessons, it has you playing an ostinato in your left with an ever-changing melody in your right. Another has you playing polyrhythms, one rhythm in your right, another in your left. Now, these aren't chords, but they will help your hands think independently, which is needed for your larger chords, amongst other things. But by the final lesson, you will be tackling chords in your left. And one of the things I love most about Melodics is that it tells you what fingers to use, which is key in being able to effectively switch between chords and, of course, play melodies. As someone who's self-taught, even I sometimes get this wrong and make life harder for myself. So get into the right habits now. On that note, I'm about to finish this course. I'm trying to keep that perfect streak going. If you'd like to join me, Melodics has a special offer through my channel, which you can check out via the link down in the description below. If you want to learn about the types of sounds that play well with these chords, be sure to check out the video on screen right now. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and comment down below. I've been Stefan, and as always, happy beat making.